Monster, Monster Man, Monster, Monster Man, Jack and Hunter and again. Monster, Monster Man, Monster, Monster Man.
Welcome to Monster Men.
Yes. By the way, welcome to a very special podcast of the Monster Men. This is what we would call a reach-around episode, where we were on PaleoCheeze, and now PaleoCheeze is on with us.
Oh.
It's mutually beneficial. And tonight, by the way, it's Chad Lutzke and Jeremiah Bannister. We are going to do a comparison of both versions of The Fly, a horror classic, which I don't think Jeremiah had ever seen. Had you ever seen either of them before?
Neither one, man. Neither one. This was brand new. It's awesome.
We should
Sweet,
say
sweet
that
bird.
one of the great things about the PaleoCheeze podcast is they often will watch a movie, and Jeremiah is the newbie. So Lutzke's like us, a crusty old veteran, and he has this newbie that he brings along. So when we've been on it, we get to see your reaction to something that we've loved our whole life. So when we went on your show, we did the Black Christmas remake and original, and We Still Hate You.
Yeah, we were far kinder.
Yeah, so
It's traumatizing.
It was
terrible. It is. Yeah.
At least we didn't get canceled.
that's true.
Yeah, well,
It's made me.
But now you're reminding people.
No, but this is because The Fly, the original 1958 version, is a horror classic, and conversely, the 85 version
Yeah,
It's around there.
86, yeah.
is also a horror classic, which is very hard to do. I think there's only a couple of movies that have done that. The Thing is one of them.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to hear both your takes as a newbie and as an oldie.
We should probably go around and say, have any of us never seen any of them, or like, what's your experience with The Fly going into this podcast? So, Jeremiah, you haven't seen either one of them?
I've seen neither one, but I knew Goldblum was in one, and so I didn't know if there was, when you said a new one compared to the old one. I thought it was a recent thing, because there's a lot of movies doing that, and so I figured, it was a recent thing, and I'm looking, man. I went on YouTube, I'm on Netflix. I think I even went to Vudu. There's just nothing, and then I get on there and I realize, oh my gosh, that is the new one. And so the old one is quite old, in fact. And so, but I'd seen neither one, man. Big fan of Vincent Price, though. Not going to lie. Dr. Phibes is one of my all-time favorite.
Oh, I love Dr. Phibes.
Dr. Phibes amazing.
That's a movie I would love to see a remake of. You could go crazy with that.
Yeah.
By the way,
who would be Phibes, though? Who would be Phibes? That's another topic. But
we could pick
but
some.
Who would that be?
I think Chad.
Danny Trejo.
Danny Trejo. Jeremiah, were you born when the remake was made?
I was born in 78, so I was.
Okay, so yeah.
So I was like 8 years old. But it's hard, dude. When I was born in an Amish community, and they abandoned me to a pack of wolves, and so I never really got to see any movies as a kid. But
You didn't see it after the barn raising?
I was gonna say he could put up a mean barn though.
Yeah. And I howl all the time.
Did your mother ever catch you churning butter in your bedroom?
That was grandma, but
That's not butter.
That's a true story. I'm not going any deeper than that. But it's true. Knock, knock, tap, tap. No. Wow. Yeah.
What about you, Chad? What's your experience with these fine flicks?
Well, I think the first my first horror movie of all time.
Uh-oh.
And Chad is
frozen.
You guys are all frozen. Okay, now you're not.
Now
Was
you're
I
back.
frozen?
No,
You were
just
frozen
man.
for a moment.
It was all you, Chad.
Chad's recording
Okay.
from a bunker in Antarctica.
Wow.
Yeah. A year or two ago, I was asked by Cemetery Dance what my first horror movie was. And I had to think really hard. I think my very first one was Godzilla versus Smog Monster, but I kind of don't count that. I think that was maybe 74, 73, something like that. But my first true like horror movie was Curse of the Fly, which is my favorite of the original Fly trilogy. So I know we're not reviewing that one, but it's part of the, it's part of the family there of the old black and white Fly trilogy.
Nice.
So I don't think I saw the original until after I saw the remake, when the remake was out. And I saw the remake, in whenever it came out, 85 or 86.
Yeah, a lifetime ago.
Yeah, but yeah, that's pretty much my experience with it. It's just watching them backwards and then being able to appreciate them both.
What about you, Jack? I bet you and I are similar.
We're similar, but I think you probably have more traction with this movie than I did. I saw it as a kid, but I don't think I ever sat down and saw it start to finish. It was more like, I don't know if it was in a 4:30 movie or something, that I had seen it. I saw parts of it, and then I saw lots of pictures of it from books, so I was familiar enough with it and saw all the good parts, and of course the ending. But I hadn't seen it since I was a kid, to the point where when I watched it this time, I forgot that Vincent Price isn't the Fly.
A lot of people think he's like the star of he's the Fly.
I actually sat down and watched this with my parents because we were like, "What should we watch?" And I said, "Go, would you guys be up for watching The Fly from 1950, whatever it was?" And actually, it was just me and my dad. And he was like, "Sure." And then my mother just wandered in. He's like, "What are you guys watching?" It's just The Fly. And she like rolls her eyes. Next thing you know, she's sitting down like totally into it.
Yeah.
So I haven't actually seen it since I was a kid, but the Goldblum one was one of those movies that just like blew me away and immediately was on my like favorite horror movies list.
Yeah.
I was so surprised by how much I liked it, and so that's been a staple. There's a lot of movies on my favorite list that I haven't watched in a long time, but that's one that I watched it, I don't know, 6 months ago, maybe a year, I don't know, and then I watched it again last night, and I was like, I could watch this again tomorrow. Like,
yeah, it's that good. I watched it a lot. The original I watched a lot with my dad growing up, to the point when whenever we were in the yard, if I saw a bug, I'd go, "Help me! Help me!" That was like a big thing in my house, is me doing that. And then The Shining took over, and I was just talking like Tony. To the point where my mother was just like, "Stop it! Just stop it!" I'm like, "He's the little boy who lives in my mouth." So loved. I grew up on The Fly.
There's a fly on my wall right now.
Is there?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
He's listening.
But then, when the Goldblum version came out, which I think is the origin of Jeff Goldblum as we know him today.
Yeah.
Pre-Fly, Goldblum would be in little parts, and he wasn't.
I remember
Goldblum.
him from a short-lived TV show called 10 Speed and Brown Shoe with him and Ben Vereen.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Awesome theme song.
So when The Fly came out, and it was down at the theater by my house. We would see it over and over, to the point where I hadn't watched the Goldblum one in maybe 20 years. I knew every line, every beat of that movie, and I felt like it was like I was in a warm, comfy shoe with a lot of fly vomit in it.
we keep calling it the Goldblum version. It's Cronenberg, man.
Yeah,
gotta give some
true.
credit to the master.
Yeah, we should. That he's done some minor movies here and there.
So-
Yeah, a couple okay ones.
Jeremiah, do you have any experience with Cronenberg movies?
Name other ones. I suck with names, man. I suck with names. So name other movies, and I'll say yes or no.
Videodrome,
Rabbit,
Dead Ringers, The
Dead
Brood,
Ringers.
Rabbit. I don't think you've seen any of them.
I haven't seen any of
They're
them.
like strange body horror, psychological things.
Yeah.
Scanners, maybe. That's pretty popular.
No, but that Scanners is on my list. So
Yeah.
so what is it? Videodrome? Is that
That was James Woods and
James Woods and
Debbie Harry.
That's another one. Yeah, it's another one on my list. We put together a list of like movies I had not seen, and I sent in other words, it was a lot. I sent them to Chad in the beginning, and that was one of those on the list. And so, but no, I have not seen. This would be the first one.
Videodrome, when my dad bought a top-loading VCR with the remote control that was wired,
Mhm.
because we didn't have cable, but he bought that. And the first movie we rented to watch as a family was Videodrome.
Wow.
And
Oh, wow.
as a family, if you ever want to like rent a movie where a TV turns into a throbbing vagina, that's the movie.
Have I got a movie for you?
Hey
Yeah.
kids, gather around. Get some
That's a
root beer
sales
floats.
pitch. I mean, yeah.
Dad, how do we get our TV to do that?
God.
And he's
That's my
like,
dad.
it used to just be channel 99. That's all it was.
I was asking so many Circuit City guys that question that they banned me from the store.
Yeah.
Circuit City. And the Wiz.
Yeah.
30
So-
minutes of watching Scrambled for one nipple shot.
Oh my God.
Dude,
Those
hours.
are glorious moments. though.
Hours.
There was, see, you think about that. There's a specialness to the barely glimpsed nipple that kids don't understand anymore. Because now,
We had to work hard for it.
now it's like, oh, I want to watch Bukkake. I'll just type in Bukkake and here it comes.
It's harder to spell
watch all
bukkake
day.
than to find it.
Yeah, that's the one thing that prevents them from finding it. Because these kids can't spell.
Now, the thing about The Fly, I feel like there's a couple of horror movies that are normie friendly, as in there are some horror movies that had to be just me and my horror movie friends to watch. But I feel like we watched The Fly with like my youth group friends and everybody was into it. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
One of these days, I want to get youth group stories out of Jack. Something bad must have happened in there.
oh, well, I was the one doing the bad stuff.
Oh, okay.
I remember a friend of mine had invited all of his youth group friends over, most of which I didn't know. And it was his birthday. And he said, well, let's get a movie. And I said, I have a movie. I'll grab this movie from my dad on VHS. And I brought over the unrated version of The Toxic Avenger. And people were pretty mad at me.
And now here you are
Yeah.
years later wearing a trauma hat.
He was not. Yeah. Toxic is actually on the other side of it. Yeah, but he in particular was mad because he was hosting this party and he's like, dude, why were you? What were you thinking? You can't watch that with all these. I was like, did you laugh though? You think it was funny?
Did you pick out the porn stars in the background? And the strippers?
I showed Silent Night, Deadly Night to my youth group.
Yeah.
How did that go over?
They just sort of accepted it from it. Because what would happen is we would have a thing where, like on a Friday night, everybody would get together and watch like a regular movie. Then me and my friend Tom would bring a horror movie, and anybody who wanted to stay for the second feature would watch the horror movie. So I got these people who just wanted to hang out to watch, and like some of them were just terrified. Like I remember my friend Sandy, who was very emotionally, and we're watching Children of the Corn, and she's like practically crying. And then I turned to her and I'm like, "He wants you too, Malachi." And she like punched me in the face. She was so scared.
The closest thing we ever had in youth group, man, to horror films was that Thief in the Night series.
Oh,
I mean, it'll lock in at 2 a.m, watching people, getting their heads cut off and heads flopping down into baskets because of the Antichrist and all that jazz and the rapture. And you got the little kid in the prison with the balloon and they're singing that song. People get ready. And all of a sudden you hear the shonk and the balloon flies up and you're like 10. I mean, that's pretty scary. It's like, wow.
I never even heard of that.
Oh, that's another level. It's like,
Hal Lindsey stuff, right? Is that
Yeah,
based
it's
on
like-
a Hal Lindsey book? Yeah.
Oh, really?
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
Left Behind, but way before.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's got, in the beginning, you got people having to make a choice and the wife's like, I'm not down with this. And then the next day the husband's shaving and bwomp, and he's just poof gone. And then everybody's poof gone.
So it's like rapture
and-
stuff?
Yeah, they're all raptured out. And then, the UN troopers are wrangling you up and you're hiding in caves and you got the barcodes on the hands and stuff. And they had a guillotine and they had like this basket and you get your head chopped off. And I remember the second one, because they played like 2 of them at the lock-in. The second one, the lady's on the, she's laid down and she's looking up at this blade and all of a sudden a storm comes and everything's shaking and it's like an earthquake. So people are running and she's like, I reject Jesus. Get me out of here. Get me out. And then it's shaking in a little handle and so
Nice.
the moral lesson is she rejected Jesus right before she died. And, of course,
That's
then of course,
That seems like bad timing.
Yeah,
kind of.
yeah, it's a double poop sandwich for her. And so, like, but the whole idea, and the pastor come up and he's like, well, it scares the hell out of you. And you're like, okay. It's a thing. But that's the closest, like, I don't remember. In fact, the only horror movie I watched as a kid at all was, what is it, Chad?
Fortress.
What? Yeah, Fortress. You remember? Yeah.
Fortress.
I just
Something
want to have you say it. Fortress. That's the
I'll
only
never
one.
forget.
Yeah,
I
he'll
remember
never.
when I was a kid, I had to be an altar boy. That was the thing that Irish Catholics did. And then they had the CYO, the Christian Youth Organization. They were like, do you want to be a part of it? I'm like, no. So my father didn't push that on me. And I remember one of the first videos that we got a hold of was a porno movie called Blonde Goddess. And we're watching this porno movie, me and my friends, and my mother walks in, and she just like walks right by the TV, goes to the kitchen, and does her thing. Says nothing about that. The week later, we rent Dawn of the Dead, and when she hears all the screaming and moaning, she comes running. Is this a porno movie? I'm like, you're a week too late. That's Dawn of the Dead. We're all good here.
I always wonder, like, what my parents or my friends' parents, like, when we were watching, like, Faces of Death and stuff, we were just like, we come home from the video store, like, yeah, we're going to go watch a movie downstairs. And they had no idea what the hell we were watching.
No, I'm sure my dad knew. I guarantee he knew. He probably, because he'd seen him. He could hear, like, the dialogue to Blonde Goddess. I'm sure he fucking knew. Oh, that's Ron Jeremy. Yeah, I know what they're watching. Have fun, kids. Have a good time. So what should we do? Should we dive? Oh, we should dive into the original first.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Which was written, I don't know if you guys realize this, written by James Clavell, who wrote Shogun.
Oh.
Really?
He was a huge writer a long time ago, but I remember Shogun was like a miniseries that was like...
Richard Chamberlain, right?
Richard Chamberlain, yes.
Like 78, 79, 80, something like that.
Yeah.
That was like when Jeremiah was born. We played that at his birthday party once.
Yeah.
But I remember Shogun, the book was like the size of like it.
Yes.
And Clavell wrote these hefty books, so he got his start in, well, I'm not even going to say crappy horror movies because this was a quality horror movie.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yes.
You wrote that. You wrote the screenplay or
The screenplay.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So is it better to get the virgin's view of this movie or the grizzled veteran horror sluts? If we're going to go virgin.
I want to hear what Jeremiah Cherry thought.
You're going to hear my Cherry thought.
Yeah.
It was awesome, man. It was awesome. I liked it a lot. For one, Vincent Price, right? And because I too thought once I saw it, I'm like, my natural assumption was, oh, he's the main guy. And so I was actually pleasantly surprised that he was not. And I was pleasantly surprised that there were multiple main people and that there were like different, that the flow of it was very of that era. And I grew up with watching Nick at Night and stuff like that, TV Land stuff. So I grew up with that, and it was very nostalgic for me, even though I'd never seen it before, the whole feel of that. And I liked it because I thought, my kids, they were sitting around watching it. They had a really good time. And I'm glad. It's funny because when Chad told me about because I, as I said earlier, I watched the second one first, the remake. When Chad's like, yeah, man, the first one, the kids would be able to watch it. It'd be no problem. So I remember I'm going through and I'm just like, I'd better check it. I'm like, I don't know about this. Like,
what, you think they'd be upset by the cat scene?
Well,
the 4-hour marathon that was happening there. So like, but no, I liked it. I liked the sets. I liked the style of clothes. I liked one thing I particularly liked was that throughout almost the entire thing, they covered his head. That he covered his head so you couldn't see it. And I thought that was like haunting. Like that to see that actually made it worse.
Well, if you hear thunder, that's coming from right over my head right now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, then you're going to hear that here in 20 minutes.
God is very upset. We should be talking about this.
Yeah. So but I liked that effect, right? That they used that. I thought that was good. I felt like so much of that was kind of like it wasn't stereotypical. I've kind of grown accustomed to seeing a lot of modern movies, and kind of becoming familiar with the way that it's laid out and the way that things kind of move along in the plot structure and stuff. And I felt like with this, I felt that it was different. The feel of it was different. The way that the story moved was different. The characters that come in throughout the whole thing was different. It almost felt like, the game of Clue or whatever. That there were different pieces to this puzzle, and even though heavy emphasis was on the wife, right? At the same time, I didn't feel that it took away from the role that all of the characters played, and I thought it was great. Now the ending, I was not the biggest fan of, but that's only because I was kind of hoping, maybe Vincent Price would tap that junk, like he would be. Like,
I think that's insinuated.
I knew, well, kind of, but I kind of feel like he's just reserved to the uncle category at this point. Like he's just, you're a really nice guy kind of thing, and and he's the uncle that's got the arm and everything. But I don't know if little dude is prepared, man, for the idea that mom and Vincent Price are going to be hooking it up, and so
he's sliding in.
He's sliding into her. He was
DMs.
a little, wasn't he? Like you could tell, like he was sad about the scenario, but at the same time, he admitted he loved her.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like it's a bummer. Obviously, it's a terrible feeling that it worked out that way. But in the end, she's banging hot, so he's okay. Life goes on, son.
I'm so sorry, my brother died.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
my dear. By the way, did you like the moral lesson of rich white people can get away with murder?
Wasn't that remarkable? like how? Well, in France, right? In France, or
it was
whatever.
Montreal.
It was Montreal. Okay,
So you don't realize it's Montreal until the very end when they're coming to take her away, and you see like Montreal police on the little ambulance.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yes.
Yeah, I just assumed it was in France, but that makes sense,
Same.
right? So yeah, in Canada, they're all aristocratic and stuff, and so they're letting white rich people off the hook left and right.
Oh,
Which
did you
they just-
murder
they
your
just
husband?
cozied up. Yeah, and they're
We'll-
like,
we'll pay
yeah.
for a nurse to take care of you. Just stay in bed.
It was
and
so
relax.
she assumed it so much that she's like, oh no, I'm not gonna go anywhere today. Like it was just this assumption, this kind of matter-of-factly thing that she's like, no, I'm good. Like,
Well,
I had such a good night's sleep.
if we're going to talk about the Canadian police force, we have to talk about the medical examiner then, because this movie starts with a woman has crushed a man with a press or something.
Yeah.
Right, it goes right into it. It's a murder mystery from the get-go.
Pretty gory too.
But-
this time.
Yeah.
I feel like I've watched enough CSI and Quincy and other things to realize that
Let's see.
if you smash a half man, half fly, the medical examiner would still be able to go, hey, there's something weird about this.
There's a lot of bizarre black fibers.
Yeah.
Where
Like,
the
yeah,
head should be.
the claw hand, man.
yeah.
You gotta look at get a freaking claw hand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got
I
a
mean-
problem here. There are no teeth, so I don't know.
There's no discernible skull or
Yeah.
Well, they
flesh.
were saying that it was like metal on metal, that the press was set to such a degree that it was basically
Liquid. Mhm.
you're liquefied.
Yeah.
But still, but the rest of his body though.
yeah.
So I mean, it's a real Mickey Mouse operation happening up in Canada. These
That's
yaxmen up
58.
there.
I'm gonna cut him slack.
They were shooting from the hip, man.
Yeah.
Trial and error.
But that's how I felt about the movie. I liked the movie a lot, and I the last thing I'll say about it, I really liked the techniques that were used to show people kind of the personality of the person or the quirks and stuff when they went to the right, the dude the scientist, he's sitting there and he's focused on that. He's with his beautiful wife. They're super hot and stuff. And he's looking down, watching this awesome ballet, which I enjoyed seeing that. And then it shows him put his like a program down, and he has that thing in his mind. He starts doing it, and she looks over and sees, and it's like obviously something that she's dealt with him for a long time.
Yes.
And even Vincent Price says that. You know how he is. He can vanish for 2 weeks at a time and just go away, and he's like, you don't see him, but that's his life. Well, he does that. And she busts him, and he turns around, and she's like, kind of thing. And he just kind of, sits back. But I felt like that was a really cool moment because you didn't have to, and I won't jump into the description of the second one, but that's not how, it wasn't subtle things like that showed the obsession of Goldblum.
Right.
And because I watched
And-
it in that order, I thought this is a clever way to show that this guy is constantly thinking about this stuff.
Right.
And I
And
like
it's
that.
funny, in a movie in 58 is showing a stronger woman than the one in 85.
Yeah.
I mean, much like this, to me, the personal stakes are higher in this one because it's a family that all loves each other, and there's a child about it. As annoying as that kid Philippe is,
Yeah, right.
who in the 50s he's in a ton of movies. He's always being chased by like a monster or an alien or something. He's just one of those kids. He's like right up there with the kid in Babadook. I just can't stand looking at
Oh gosh.
fucking Philippe. But I did like the fact where with them the stakes are higher because this is also the destruction of their family. This kid is potentially left with nobody but creepy uncle.
He was a good sport about it. He was a good sport about having to keep going out to the yard to look for one specific fly.
Well, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, he's young. Get that white-headed fly there, buddy.
I'll go get that. Yeah. And they have like a big yard and stuff, man. There's trees everywhere. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah, I'll
You
find
know,
that fly.
so, but
And he
yeah,
did.
but you're right
find it.
about her being stronger. And it's weird
Yeah.
because you bring it up that she's a wife in a home, right? She's a housewife.
Right.
And in the newer one, she's the adventurous person who's out there writing the hard-hitting articles and stuff like that. And yet, she's really the weaker character. The way they portrayed her
Yes.
was weaker than the one who was the housewife.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
But
it's
because
an interesting thing. Yeah.
she could be weaker because she didn't have that tie. Sure, she had sex with him on his pull-out sofa a couple of times, but that wasn't enough to fully invest her in him.
Oh, that was
Look,
4 hours, dude, or whatever it was.
we've
I mean,
all had one-night stands. I don't know if that one-night stand's going to come back, but as you turn into a freaking fly,
whoa.
be that concerned about you.
Chad,
Yes.
what'd you think of the original?
I kind of wish that I had seen the original before because something happens at some point with movies. The shock of the original becomes kind of commonplace, like Hitchcock's Psycho. Whether you've seen it or not, you know exactly what the story's about. There's no real, shock factor. There's no guessing. And the original Fly is a mystery. And if you didn't, know anything going in, I could see it being highly entertaining. Like not knowing. The movie's called The Fly, but if you didn't know, I don't know what the publicity was like back then, other than the shots that they would use for promos. Sometimes, just like screenshots of the film or just stuff like that. I can't remember what the one card things that they used to provide for all the monster kids and stuff, and the shots that you would see in Famous Monsters and things like that. But I don't know how much people knew about it going in, and if you weren't like kind of desensitized to that type of thing, I'd be curious to know the impact of this movie when it first came out. Was it shocking that you find out what happened?
Right.
You find out why it happened. I mean, we all knew going in exactly what happened, whether we had seen the movie or not. And I think that's a shame, just like with Psycho. If you've never seen Psycho before, Jeremiah, I don't know if you've seen it before, but if you haven't, you know what
Yeah,
happened.
I've seen Psycho, dude. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I've seen Psycho, but that's fair because I didn't see Jaws before PaleoCheeze.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But with Psycho, like you might not know about the like robbery part and the money, but that chick gets killed in the shower and Norman's watching her, and that Norman spoiler alert, and that
Yeah.
and then Norman is really his mom and he's keeping her body and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so I think it's a shame that really good films can kind of be I don't know if I want to say ruined, but a good film cannot hold up specifically for that reason. So I watched it with that type of appreciation, to where like if I went in blind and didn't know anything about it, realizing what a great mystery that it was. And like Jeremiah, I loved the hood. and it was very ominous. It was black and just brooding. It was cool, and I was glad that they kept that on there as long as they did.
He could see a lot through that hood, by the way.
Yeah,
That's the magic material that he must have invented as well. The see-through black hood.
Yeah, yeah.
It was
Go ahead, Jack.
I was saying, one of the things that you kind of appreciate or notice is how much time they take in the communication between the two once he can't speak anymore. Like a lot of movies wouldn't have the patience for that kind of thing. And a lot of this was the going back and forth and trying to figure things out and trying things that you're like, you would never see that in a modern movie.
Like the slow typing. It actually showed the typewriter slowly doing it. I thought that was like kind of cool.
There's a whole generation that has no idea what he's writing those letters on.
Yeah, they're like, what is that thing?
They're texting.
It's like a laser disc, man.
But speaking of modern things that they wouldn't do in a modern film, there was some lines in there about God that I found really interesting. In particular, when he says God gives us intelligence to uncover the wonders of nature. Without the gift, nothing is possible. You're definitely not going to hear something like that. And just the whole idea of, it credits God for science, which has always made sense to me personally, but that doesn't happen these days. And somewhere along the line, people started thinking if you believe in God, then you don't believe in science. And I have never subscribed to that. And so to have a film, with a strong woman character, it's not like she was, making sandwiches all through the movie.
She had a maid to make the sandwiches and clean up after her friggin' messes.
Oh wait, I watched the original one like a month or two ago, so it's a little bit. The maid is somebody famous. Is it the woman from Throw Mama from the Train or something like that?
I think so.
Is it really?
Like she's been in a billion movies. The woman who plays the maid. Which when I first watched this, I thought like Jeremiah that it was in France when I was growing up, and I was like, why does everyone speak English? Yeah. Like there's nobody here that speaks even with a French accent except maybe the inspector. What was his name? Was it Francois or something like that? I don't know.
Clouseau.
I was gonna say one more thing, man. I forgot about this, but it was actually someone Chad said about the dialogue and things like that, like things that were stated. I felt like for that time that it was really prescient in that that conversation between the husband and the wife about progress, technology, and people's ability, normal everyday folks' ability to deal with how rapidly it's advancing, and how she felt like it was overwhelming, that she saw utility in it, but there's kind of a place for it. And he was the stargazer. He's like, it's marching on. We're pushing forward. This is all kind of a destiny thing. God gave us this. We're moving forward kind of thing. But the conversation itself lasted a relatively long time on this actually kind of deep subject that even now is kind of looped around after all this time. And there's a lot of people now who are finding themselves in that same struggle. Like, oh my gosh, it's all around me. And everywhere I go, the first thing I see in the morning, the last thing I see at night, and during the day, the bing and the boop and the bleep and the blop, and all of this all the time. And it's never ending. And the technocrats are like, move forward. We're going to upload your brain. Black Mirror is real. And so like that world, those things are still here. And I just felt like, man, this is a conversation. Whoever wrote this, and you said the writer.
James Clavell, who's a great writer.
That's not just good writing. That means he had a really fantastic and forward-looking understanding of the nature of technology in respect to the nature of people, and how we have different forces at play, one that's kind of reserved and one that's moving forward, and the difficulty in the middle. And I thought it was awesome because it's a husband and wife who love each other, and it brought out that conversation. I said it was amazing, and I was really impressed by that.
Good, because you could almost call this a sci-fi movie.
Yeah, definitely.
And good sci-fi is always a good representation of what's going on, not only in the current world, but in future worlds. And good sci-fi writers it's almost weird. It's almost like they have some sort of ability to see into the future and fold it into what's going on in the present time. And that's one of the things that I think that's what makes this movie stand out still many, many years later. I mean, Jack and we were only like 20 when this movie came out. So it's been out there for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, I think my dad was like 15 when this movie came out. I wish he was still around so I could have like picked his brain, because my dad worked in a movie theater. He was an usher in a movie theater for years and years in the Bronx. So he would see all these movies. He rigged up the seats for The Tingler, another Vincent Price classic.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
awesome.
They would rig up. I think he said 20 seats they were able to rig up for The Tingler to like shock people. While
I thought that was a porno.
Dude, William Castle.
Doesn't it sound like one?
Oh, The Tingler.
The Tingler?
Scream.
You're thinking of The Shocker.
The Shocker.
Horace Pinker.
Oh my
You started it, Jeremiah.
Yeah.
But when you said about being a sci-fi movie, that's what struck me. Like I said, I haven't seen this since I was a kid, and it was never a movie that really stuck with me as far as older movies. It was just like one of the cool, and it definitely is to me like half sci-fi, half horror, if not more sci-fi. And I've watched quite a few old Twilight Zones lately. Like Shatner looking out the window in the plane. This ending totally felt like a Twilight Zone ending.
Well, Twilight Zone's everyone's screwed.
Yeah,
that's just the end of Twilight. Hey,
I
you're
was
done.
going to ask you guys what you thought of the ending, and you said it was like a Twilight Zone ending. I think it would have been a Twilight Zone ending if they hadn't seen The Fly. And I was going to ask you guys what you would think. Do you think you would like the movie even more if they never found The Fly?
No,
I mean, they said they saw The
that
Fly.
moment.
What?
You need that moment of the.
You need a happy ending.
No, well,
no, the spider eating the guy and then smashing it with a rock.
I would have kept the the face on the fly and screaming in terror, and I would have done the brick, but she still would have gone to jail. That kid would have had no parents.
That's what I mean. Like if the wasn't it the inspector saw, so that's all they needed. Now we know, happy ending. Yes, this guy is gonna die, but at least she's not gonna go to jail. And then her and Vincent can pursue a whole another type of fly.
Yeah.
And
now, if this happened
The
in the
Price is
Cabrini
Right.
housing projects for Candy Manhattan, she would have gone to jail. But because she was a wealthy white woman living in Montreal in 1958, she was getting off one.
I like that she got away with it, but I kept thinking to myself that if one of my favorite TV detectives was on this, like Monk or Columbo, they would have figured out the fly thing.
You got gone from Quincy to Columbo. This is amazing.
They would have been, but they didn't have any
Old
sharp
school.
detectives on this case.
No.
He was like sitting down for tea with her, hearing out this crazy story, like with interest. Like, I just want to know what you thought. And she's like going through and talking about it. And then when she's done, she's like it's what I told you, it's done, it's over. Like, you know.
He's like, well, don't worry. This nurse that the government is paying for, we'll take care of you, and maybe we'll see you later. We don't know.
Yeah. And then she admitted lying. She admitted lying that she said she was trying to look crazy. That's another crime in and of itself. So, I mean, it's more than just that. I mean, she's even like, you know, you could put a whole host of different lesser crimes in there that she committed.
I kind of think maybe she was crazy. Like, I'm watching this with my wife, and she says to me, would you let me see your fly head if that happened to you? I said, no. I said, because no matter, you and I could have spent a century together. The only thing you're going to remember is me and my fly head.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to happen to you. And I do think that part of her broke when she saw that fly head. And I think that's why maybe she was so delusional in the end, going, oh, and you know, the nurse like, oh, put on your coat. Oh, I'm not going out anywhere, am I? Yeah, you are. You're going in that stretcher.
Yeah.
And she was shocked by it. And I do think there's two ways to take it. You could take it of the privileged white girl, or you could take it as the poor woman who saw the love of her life turned into a friggin' fly, who she's had a little break with reality at this point.
And then liquefied his brain in a press.
Yeah, and then murdered her
And
twice.
she told him that, twice. Yeah, and she even said that she wouldn't be scared by it. That she's like, when she told him she wanted to see, and she's like, I said it'll be okay. And then she sees it and she's like, blah! Totally the opposite, So,
That was for us.
she's pretty shook, man.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, the 50s version and the 80s version both have great takes on what would happen if you and a fly were teleported in a pod together. And it was clearly like the 50s was a simpler, oh yeah, you'd get the head and a hand, like that. And then when you get to Cronenberg, it gets more sophisticated. So they're both like great takes on that what if, teleportation.
Right. Jack, when you were a kid, did you wish that a fly would get into the transporter on Star Trek and turn like the landing party to half man, half flies? Because I used to think that all the time, like fly, spider, ant. Like I wanted to see the red shirts come out with like ant legs.
We always talked more about like what would happen if they transported in like half into a couch or something.
Oh
like that,
yeah, we used to think that's all. What if you put them in a boulder?
Yeah, like it was like.
Shoot me, Captain! Shoot me, Captain!
Maybe that's what happened to. Maybe that's the origin of what's his name, Gorn or whatever. He got trapped with an iguana.
There's a great line in Wrath of Khan where they're wondering where the people from the space station went on the transporter, and Kirk's like, "Well, we're just going to go where they went." And Bones is like, "But what if they went somewhere like in the middle of the rock or something? What's your big chance to get away from it all?" He's just like, "Fuck it, let's just go." And literally, like you're like, you could have just beamed yourself into the middle of that rock.
Yeah. Kirk. Dick. He doesn't get beamed with the rocks.
Giant balls.
It's very interesting though, because this is billed as a Vincent Price movie, but he's really a minor character in this movie.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's really her movie. Like David Hedison, who was the Fly, is in it a lot. No, I'm sorry. He's not in it a lot. Like none of the guys really are. It's her movie.
Yeah.
Which is also rare to see back then in this type of flick.
Yeah.
And she wasn't heaving bosoms and stuff. She was in nice house coats.
I liked her clothes, man. I'm nostalgic like that. I like the clothes, the houses, the colors in it, and that's a stark contrast. Like, I mean, you're with the first and the remake is the home, the colors in the first one are bright, multicolored. I mean, you've got all the books. The library has reds and blues and yellows and greens and whites, and the different textures of everything. And they're in this beautiful mansion that's obviously well kept. They've got, servants and stuff. And so it's a different scene. But then you get to the remake, and that's like lots of browns. A lot of brown, a lot of wood.
Crap
kind of
neighborhood.
Stuff going on there. Yeah, rafters and stuff. And so
it's almost like it's the respect of the scientist has changed. The way the scientist at one point could live in this opulence and was respected, where Jeff Goldblum was like hiding out in some industrial warehouse doing his stuff all by himself.
Yeah.
It's almost like a
DIY.
change. Yeah.
DIY guy.
It's a change in how we view science.
I'll tell you what, though, if you think about this, the remake, and we'll get into this when we talk about it, was brilliant. But how interesting would it have been if Hammer or somebody like that had made a remake of this, like in the 60s or early 70s with the Hammer thing? Like, it would have been probably been a lot more along the lines of the original storyline, but with more sex and creature.
Yeah, more boobs for sure.
Very, very bosomy. For sure. And lots of walking. You ever notice Hammer movies?
Yeah.
The sound of the walking is very prominent in all Hammer movies.
A lot of horses.
Heels. I was like, is everyone wearing tap shoes in Hammer movies? Why is
Who's
someone
Hammer?
That's
You
like
guys
Italian
are killing
horror.
me.
Hammer is all the
I'm
Christopher.
MC Hammer. I'm like, dude, MC Hammer movies. I don't know what you guys are thinking.
It's like the
That would not be awesome at all.
It's like all the Christopher Lee Dracula movies and the English. It's like 50s, 60s, and 70s, like Technicolor horror movies
It was a British horror studio that produced a lot of gothic horror movies and tons of Dracula movies.
Okay.
Which is Jack can take you down that road one day. You can hold his hand and he'll guide you through it.
That was my childhood.
Because I could not imagine that you guys were really talking about MC Hammer. Like once you said the time frame, I'm like, obviously not. I'm like,
an MC Hammer remake of this would actually be the best thing. You know, like you can't touch this.
Hammer version of The Fly. No, it's over.
Stop.
That's
press time.
That's why we pray.
Because Jack keeps doing all these old references. When he said Mike or when he said Hammer, I'm thinking like Hammer, like Mickey Spillane.
Oh,
because I mean you're dropping like Quincy and Columbo. I'm waiting for you to make a Trapper John MD reference or something.
His favorite actress is Mary Pickford from the 1920s. Oh, so Jack, what did you think?
I like it though. It makes me feel less old when I talk to you guys because I lived all that. So
we're a combined age on this podcast of Methuselah.
Yeah.
I had a blast with this movie. There's so many like The Thing and The Invisible Man and this that are the remake is so good and it's like a genre defining movie, you know what I mean? And it's some of them like I said, like The Invisible Man, I saw it when I was a kid and I've watched it recently, but like I don't have a super affection for the original one, but I have a fondness for it. But like The Thing from Another World, I've only seen that like twice.
Oh, I love that movie.
It's good, but it's not like one I revisit.
What?
Yeah, I've never seen that
Dude,
one.
You have to watch it.
But there's so many.
Because it's similar to this. Like the rule back then was you don't show the monster until somewhere in the third act. You build up that tension. And George Romero put The Thing from Another World the best because they're still in the base in the Antarctic. And they do this mechanism of opening and closing doors through the first hour. Open, close, open, close. You never know what's coming. Like after a while, you start thinking, "Oh, it's just another person walking through the door." And then when the thing comes out through the door, you jump. And I know where it's coming, and we still jump when it happens. To great effect that I don't think anybody has. Well, a few people have the skill nowadays, but it's rare. And I don't think people would wait that long anymore, which is sad.
But it's great because there's two ways to do a remake, right? Like either try and replicate the original to some degree, but bring something new to it, or take the core of it and make something different. Right. And this one did that. So
or you can psycho it.
Yeah. Oh God.
Oh. Don't do that.
Jack, I just saw your hat. I almost bought that hat.
Oh, isn't it awesome?
The sleeve stack. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Are you standing before a bunch of colored crystals right now?
Angry Minnow.
Yeah, Angry Minnow. That's why I got it.
Yeah.
I've been seeing that's a pop-up ad that worked on me. Finally, I was like, I gotta have it.
Me too. I did buy a hat, and I was like, do I want the Chaka one, the sleeve stack one, and then I end up getting a different one.
Yeah. I was like, I have to have the.
What did you get? Holly? You got Holly?
No.
Big Alice.
My first crush.
So yeah, I was very happy that we chose this because a lot of the times when you talk about original versus a remake, it's more like something that was like Jeremiah, what you were thinking, like something that was like made in the 60s or 70s, and then something that's now like Dawn of the Dead or something like that. You know, like the original versus Zack Snyder's or something like that. But it's fun to go back to these movies like the 50s that I haven't seen since I was a kid. And like I said, my memory's hazy on them. And then going, oh my God, yeah, like I didn't realize so much about the teleporter machine and how cool it was in that. And then how much Cronenberg borrowed from that and then how much he kind of improved on it.
Right.
You know,
by the way, the sound of the teleporter, I think they ripped from War of the Worlds.
Oh.
It was the sound of the war machines as they were gearing up to like zap you with a laser. It was the same sound.
Interesting.
I'm a dork for
I liked
50s movies.
the set, the room where the transporters were in the first one. I thought that the colors for that, the neon colors and how all the sounds. And speaking of transporters, dude, Chad's
Chet's
there
gone.
he is. He's somewhere.
He's
There he
looking for
is.
a fly.
He transported, man.
Oh God, he's gone again.
He's gone again. What the heck?
Help
He's
me!
He's stuck
Help
in a
me!
rock.
Oh yeah, he's still over there. He's somewhere.
I can hear him.
But it was I thought that was really cool, and it stood out too because I felt like even though the rest of the movie was really colorful, it was so different from the rest of it that to see the lights, and it didn't smack of kind of a lot of the vintage sci-fi stuff where it's just a lot of buttons that are like lights just doing that. That may have been a little bit there, but the emphasis on the neon lights that are getting brighter and brighter and everything, and that droning hum that's happening. I thought it was great. I thought it was awesome.
That was a modern 58 modern reinterpretation of Dracula's lab, which you got the thing. Literally, people were getting electrocuted on the set of that movie when they were doing the original because you've got like literal beams of electricity flying all around the place. So it's like, hey, it's 58. We got neon right now, and it looks kind of cooler and it's safer. You can do it in your basement while Philippe is upstairs hunting for bugs. Everybody's good. And the cat. What was the cat's name?
I forget.
Wasn't
Dandelo.
yeah.
Dandelo. Now, I'm a cat person. Don't name a cat Dandelo. It deserves what it gets if it's Dandelo.
Yeah.
By the way, if you did this nowadays with a dog, the movie's not getting released.
Yeah.
Cats is always fine.
What do you guys think of the unrealistic optimism of finding a fly once it got outdoors?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Hey, we're all full of that, right?
Although
But he found it twice.
Yeah,
He found it
maybe
twice.
maybe because it had a human head, it knew to stay around the house.
Maybe.
That was a confusing thing because the man with the fly head could still think like a man. So you'd assume that the fly with the man head thought like a fly. But then he's screaming for his life in the end. So there's some humanity left in there. So maybe he was smart enough to at least hang around a little bit. And what drove me...
Go ahead, Chad. I was just going to say that I think that scene, we talked earlier about seeing bits and pieces of movies until we virtually have seen the whole, know what happens before we even see the movie. I think, I could be wrong, but I think that I saw that scene originally in Terror in the Isles.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
I saw that in the theater.
What pissed me off was you've got a kid who's a master bug catcher, right? So you see the fly in the parlor, and they put the sugar out, and then you leave it to mom to get the fly out of the net, and of course she doesn't know what she's doing. Leave it to the kid. I'd be like, kid, do it. This is what you do best. Get that bug in your jar right there.
I felt like the first one, that is a weak point for me, was that having seen the second one first, I felt like the conversations that were happening after the transformation began were more realistic between Gina Davis and Goldblum than between the wife and the husband in the first one.
Well, they're all very aristocratic about it.
Yeah, they're very aristocratic, but I felt like it was like not what I didn't feel like that's how people would really react. And yet I did feel that that's
like every movie in the 50s.
That it was more realistic in that way, to the way that people would react. And not entirely. There were some things I thought were like, well, I don't know about that. But at the same time, I felt that was a weakness in the first one. That it followed a typical structure that you have of a mystery, for example, a murder mystery. And then it gets to the place where the fly enters into the scene. And I felt like from that point forward, the dialogue wasn't as believable, even for a situation that's outrageous, right? I mean, it's an unrealistic situation, but there's still an expectation that you're going to have dialogue that would be like, I can imagine myself saying that or acting this way. And I felt that was kind of a weakness in the...
Well, you're looking at, it's a Hollywood aesthetic in the 50s. So you didn't get people talking like people until James Dean and Marlon Brando came along in 55. Mm-hmm. So this is only 3 years removed. Like I used to ask my grandparents watching these movies, like, Grandma, did you ever dress like that? Like these long flowing dresses and how she's like, No. And my grandpa, that's just in the goddamn movies. So
guys in ties in their house.
Vincent
Yeah,
Price's
yeah.
red smoking jacket was awesome.
Oh yes.
So if there's any fans out there that want to send me a smoking jacket, you can
Dude,
send Jack
yes.
books. I'll take a smoking jacket by all means.
I was
'cause
watching
smoke.
that with my wife, and I said, that thing is awesome. I have to get one of those.
It is
Yeah.
tremendous,
Yeah.
but it's fairy tale land, and it's some of the dialogue is a little less stilted than you get pre 55. You know, before 55, you get, hello, how you doing there? Oh, I'm great. How are you? Like this is very staccato kind of
Mm-hmm.
pace to it, which it changes. Like literally, Dean and Brando changed the way people spoke in movies to the point now where, you know, it's now we have mumblecore, just idiots just mumbling on and on and on. But you know, it's more reflective of what we do. It's less escapism and more of realism.
I think one thing we should talk about before we flip over to the other one is the creature effect. What did you think of the fly itself?
I thought that the animated bits I thought worked really well for the time. Like the little I thought as ridiculous as it might look, just because it would have been cooler if it was like half the head was human, half the head, instead of just 100% fly and 100% fly limb. But I still thought it worked. I still thought it was cool.
Yeah, I don't know if Hedison was in the fly outfit, but the way that the head would twitch, like a nervous fly, I thought that was great. And the little pipe cleaners sticking out of the mouth and they're shaking and everything. It was cool. The reveal must have been awesome back then. And they don't get too close to it where you kind of ruin like the little bit of magic dust that they've sprinkled on it. So I still think it looks good. I would prefer that to any CGI crap that you give me nowadays.
Oh. Yeah, I liked it. I liked the effect that they did with the eyes too, where you see multiple of her face.
Yes.
It's all over the
was
place.
cool.
I thought that was a really cool scene. And so I like the way that helped to give you an idea for the fly. Because you see the face, but now you're seeing through the eyes, and so I thought that was awesome. I liked the fly. I liked the way that the fly looked. Even the hand, and that he was fighting against it, because they had to figure out a way to show that struggle.
Yeah.
Right. And the fly's like, wanting to type evil things or something. I don't know. but he's like fighting. He's like, no, don't do it. Kind of doing that thing. Like the Fight Club thing, fighting himself. But it was a little bit like that. But it was. But I thought it was awesome, especially for the time. I like the little things in the face, little in the mouth, and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked that it wasn't like over the top, because in the remake, it's not. It's a lot. Like
Brenda Fly, there's a lot going on with Brenda Fly.
There's a lot going on with that, and so it's a totally different feel watching that. It's dated, of course, but I thought there's a value to that too, and because it was better than just like watching a play. You know what I mean? Like it was still high quality effect and everything, and high quality costume stuff.
Yeah.
But
If he was smart, he would have taken a chainsaw to his hand and then put a chainsaw there where his hand used to be.
You are absolutely right. You're fighting your hand. You know what you got to do.
Yeah.
They're both excellent movies of their time, and they're very reflective of their time.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So
All right.
we're going to get to the next one?
I think we need to jump into the next one. So what was this, 1985?
That's what we're saying the entire time.
It was
whether
like
it was right
85
or
or
wrong.
86, I thought.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Mid-
80,
mid-80s.
86. There we go.
Yeah.
86.
Yeah.
I was 72.
Okay, so
I almost
Jeremiah,
spit out my stuff all over the set, man. Oh.
if when we did PaleoCheeze, you guys said like pick a horror movie. I easily could have picked this because it's, I don't know where it is on my list, but it's definitely like in my top horror movies of all time. So like I think I speak for the other two guys here. This one is one of those, any horror, we could all get together and we can fight about which horror movies we like or we don't, but this is one of those consensus ones that everybody loves.
Yeah,
So
there's nothing to hate about it.
No, unless you don't like fly vomit. If you have an aversion to fly vomit, trigger warning.
But
Yeah.
I think the fly vomit is one of the reasons why we all love this movie.
Yeah.
It
Oh, for
was
sure.
unforgettable. And we'll mention again, it's brought to us by David Cronenberg, who was the master of weird body stuff. And
Yeah.
you couldn't have picked a better director, I think, to make this movie.
So
It's a
what?
totally different experience watching this.
Yeah, for sure.
I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
it's not even close. I mean, you know, it's one of these movies where when you're watching it and you're seeing the little things like the fingernail come out,
Yeah.
you know, or the
Oof.
teeth and stuff, anything like that where your gut is just twisting. And then you start to see the hairs and they're prickly and you see just the skin, his ear come off, man. You know, what was the movie? Was it Dead Alive? What is that, Chad?
Yeah.
With
With
the
the
ears
Dead
in the
Alive,
custard,
Ear in the
custard.
pudding.
Ear in the pudding moment, dude. And I'm just like, and Goldberg was so hilarious about it, you know, Goldblum. Goldblum was so hilarious about it where he's just like, you know, like, oh, well, there goes that kind of thing, you know? And I thought it was nasty. So there's times where I'm watching it and I'm like, oh no. Like, I'm like, it just, and it gets worse. It just gets worse and worse and worse. But then there's a kind of a time when he's, you know, he's kind of crawling up, you know, and he's waking up to the realization that there's an end to this, that there's an aim to the transformation. It's not just random. It's going to consume him. He's eventually going to evolve into this thing, right?
Mhm.
And in that phase, it kind of reminded me a little bit more of the Toxic Avenger. Like, it wasn't so slimy and bubbly in the skin and stuff. It was just grody looking, like a really flyish looking elephant man or something, like something weird. But it was the grossness of it all. That's the first thing. I mean, it's so dramatically different, the gross factor. The only thing, and I don't know if I would say this is bad, because it is a dated thing too, like for the era, is the crazy scientist, right? The cuckoo scientist guy who's in his house and he's got, you know, he's talking about the, you know, changing the world and doing this kind of thing like the first one, right? But he didn't have the social life that the first dude had. He was kind of what we've come to, the crazy mad scientist guy now, who, you know, is in a weird environment and he's doing crazy experiments and he's kind of cuckoo guy, willing to put himself at risk and stuff, more than just changing the world. And so that was very different too. And I actually preferred the first one on that score to it. Gina Davis, I did not know that she was going to be in that. And so I was actually really happy to see that. I've missed her. I'm like, I don't know what happened with her, man. Like, you know.
She did the Exorcist TV series a few years ago, but she hasn't done much. Well, that's Hollywood. Oh,
Yeah,
you're over
yeah.
40? And she's
Yeah.
over 50, so, or maybe over 60 at this point, so long.
Yeah, it's exactly. And so she'll be put into a certain mold then, you know.
Yep.
But I like that. And the only other thing that I'll just say the thing that I didn't care for was the boyfriend guy. I was like, yeah,
Dick.
you know, yeah,
He was a
I
prick.
mean, he was a total stalker. He's a total stalker. He's like stalking her at the store. He's all peeping Tomming over the stuff. Seeing the jacket. He's like, you buying that jacket for yourself? Like,
Taking
whoa.
a shower in her apartment.
Yeah, man. Like, this guy's really messed up. And then he shows up at the end, and I won't spoil. I'll let it come out as it comes out. But like, he shows up at the end.
35 years
I'm
old.
kind of glad he got jacked. You know, I mean, I'm like, if anybody's gonna get jacked up, I'm glad it's that guy.
But he gets a little bit of redemption there.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, a little. You know,
He's still
he's
a
not-
jerk.
yeah. He's taking it really far. If it's just out of dislike, you know, or some weird thing. I mean, he's putting a lot on the line. I mean, he's going to be doing a lot of therapy now, and so he's gonna have those little crutches like Tiny Tim and stuff. So he's going to be struggling. But you know, I liked it. I liked the intensity of it increasingly getting grosser, but that also being tethered with it him becoming increasingly aware of what's going on and going through kind of phases with it, where in the beginning it's like really messing with him. He's fascinated, and then he's like all zoomed out of his mind, like sped out.
He's on
and then
roids and blue pills.
like
Roid
exactly roid rage, man. He's like flipping out, and then he's a sex maniac, and because they don't live very long. Flies don't, and so
Right.
they're just poon central. I mean, they're just boning left and right because they're dying so soon, and so they have to
Meet me on that pile of poo and let's do it.
Yeah, meet me over there. We can do it. And so but he increasingly became aware and was going through that. And as he became aware, that's when she walked in, and he actually had the Tiny Tim thing happening, and or the Jimmy guy or whatever, Timmy from South Park. He had those things, and so like he comes in and he's super weak and he's dying and he knows he is, and he's starting to become back to himself. And I felt that was pretty awesome, actually, like the way that came around full circle to the end where it's quite obviously him. And it was a very tragic thing. And that I felt was one of the greatest strengths of the newer one, was that was the tragic nature of the end. I felt that the first one ended on the happy ending, where even though Homeboy's dead, he wasn't really you weren't that connected to him. Right. He was the scientist guy who was trying to do cool things, but you didn't have a feeling for him. Whereas Goldblum, you do. And so what happens with him, I mean, that is genuinely sad. And there's no happy stuff after that, there's no putting arm in arm and talking about Uncle Vincent or whatever and walking away, kind of thing. And so very different films, both, you guys are totally right, products of their era, their age, right? You can watch either one and just nail where it is. What era is that? Even if you didn't know the actresses or the actors, you could just see it and say, yep, that right there, that's 1980s sometime, 1950s over here. And so you would be able to spot it. So I liked both of them. I liked the second one, but for completely different reasons. And I was completely grossed out. So thanks a lot. It was super nasty, man. And it had a nip shot. It did have a nip shot. Little nippy nipple. It had a spice moment because he's squeezing it. You can see the corner of the little nipple. It was a Channel 99 moment.
I got to go back and look.
Yeah,
I missed it.
Yeah.
I think in his medicine cabinet, I might be wrong, but isn't there a penis in one of the jars there?
Oh, I didn't catch that. I don't know.
Oh my God, I got to go back and look now.
You guys are all gotta go back and see the
Nipples and penis. I'm going to watch it again.
Watching the first movie, I said to my wife, I wonder if his dick is a fly dick. Like I was like, and what's the size of it? And this could account for his anger.
What is the size relative to scale for them?
I don't know. I've never seen a fly
depends on if
penis.
it's a Spanish fly or not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
With all that flying around, crawling around, if it was human and just small, I'd end up having a nasty callus or something on there.
I don't know. Goldblum got plenty of mileage out of his penis before it fell off then.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, you wore Gina Davis out.
He was a very social guy, and he was awkward, but he sure did bring in the hotties.
Oh,
he did, didn't
procreate.
he? Yeah, he was, yeah.
He needed to make baby mayflies.
That was an awkward conversation about him saying, yeah, I live with my mom, and I think Gina Davis played it well, though. Like, I think that was a natural thing where she's just kind of like staring, like obviously brokenhearted, even though it seemed a little strong, right? Like she was really down with him pretty quick. She was. She had the sickness pretty deep real quick. But I don't know. But I thought that was a good conversation. But he had the hot chicks, dude.
He did.
Yeah.
Well, that's one thing I like about both movies. They both get into it fast.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like different ways. One is a murder mystery. One is, hey, I met you at a dinner party. You want to see me transport shit? Like there is no filler in either.
I'm glad you said that. I think this is one of the best paced movies ever. Like I am never bored. I'm never looking at my watch. And I can't believe how fast it goes.
Yeah.
That might have a lot to do with how strangely charismatic Goldblum is.
Yeah, he is perfectly cast.
It's fun to watch. Oh, absolutely. You couldn't have picked anybody. I mean, he's already like that weird kind of skittish. I mean, even if you see him on interviews, he says oddball things. His mannerisms are very bizarre. He was born to play this role for sure. And if anybody else played it, it would be a completely different Brundlefly.
But I do believe that he got together in a pod with somebody else and became Jeff Goldblum to make this movie. Because pre-Fly, he's not this guy, and then he becomes this weird guy who's talking about the magic. He's a little Shatnery. He's a little Shatnery.
Yeah, he's got a shtick like Shatner.
Is this the movie where he met Gina Davis and didn't they get married after this movie?
I think so, yeah.
Did they really get married in real life?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Well, now I know where she's been. Yeah, I've been wondering, man, where's she been? Goldblum.
They're perfect because they're both very tall, kind of like curly hair, strange. I think they're a perfect couple.
He was pretty fly for a white guy.
Hey, yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't quite like that. I just saw Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which I didn't recall him being.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it since I was like 8 years old. And he doesn't act like that in there.
Yeah, and he was in The Sentinel. And he was
but if you watch,
different guy.
I remember him being kind of that way though, because I was sort of surprised when he was in there. Because in 10 Speed and Brown Shoe, he's like the nerdy guy.
You're the only person mentioning 10 Speed and Brown Shoe.
But that's what I'm saying. I knew about him long before, like he was like a household name.
Right.
He's in Silverado, one of my favorite.
Oh, Silverado's a great movie.
He's in Tim and Eric's awesome show, $1 Billion Movie.
What?
Yeah, that's just a big flop. That's like, what? That's really random. It's true. No. He's in the very beginning, and he plays the same kind of Goldblum-y character, which is kind of himself at this point, right?
Yeah,
he's
himself
whenever you
forever.
see him do interviews, he kind of is like, yeah, that's the guy, the scientist guy from Jurassic Park and The Fly. Like it kind of follows that. Like,
well, he had like that weird hunky thing going between.
Dude was cut.
Jurassic Park and Earth Girls Are Easy with Gina Davis.
He's in great shape.
Did he get buffer, like, because there are movies where it starts out the guy is kind of regular Joe, and then like they take a couple months and they're beefing him up. Like he when he came out after the transformation, when he came out and for the first time he's doing the flips and stuff, but when he's just his body, I was like, he's not like mega like huge, but he's definitely fit.
Yeah,
like very fit.
I think he always was.
Was he?
By the way, if you want to find out why he's not on talk shows anymore, watch like old #MeToo appearances, and now you'll know why he's never on a talk show. He's
really
so touchy.
He's great
on
a talk show, though.
He's amazing on talk shows, but you can't be amazing anymore because it's just too weird.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate.
Have any of you guys seen Thor Ragnarok?
Yeah.
No.
Goldblum's one of the bad guys in it, and it is one of the best things you'll ever watch. He's so funny in it. He's totally, basically, Taika Waititi just said, I want you to be Goldblum, but on steroids. It's it's like Christopher Walken.
That would terrify me.
There's like Walken, Shatner, Goldblum. Like those guys, just like do your thing, but like give me Goldblum at a 10.
Yeah.
Like, who's the next actor now who would be in that category? Do we have anybody that shows any sort of distinction? Or are they all just bland?
I don't really follow
pretty
it.
faces.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't think of any. Like Crispin Glover, but he's like our age now, Jack.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
He's
definitely in that category.
He doesn't have like the A-list.
No, he's
category
C-list because they're terrified of him. I think directors are scared shitless of him. But I don't know if
he would make a great Brundlefly too. Actually, now I think about it,
he'd make an amazing Brundlefly.
Hey, man!
I'm a freaking fly, man. I'm a fly.
He does the dance from Friday the 13th.
The Friday the 13th dance.
You know, the thing that I forgot about this movie was if you were at like movie trivia night, they're going to be like, oh, name the movie for these quotes. We're going to need a bigger boat. I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. Be afraid, be very afraid is one of those movie quotes that everybody knows, but I bet you 1 out of 10 people would tell you, oh yeah, that's from The Fly.
It's a great line.
I wouldn't even give it
Yeah.
1 out of 10, to tell you the truth.
But everybody
That
knows that
line?
line.
Yeah, I mean, they wouldn't know where it's from. They just,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
just
yeah,
a
yeah,
thing
yeah.
now. Yeah,
But
yeah.
everybody knows that line. You know, people have said that. Like anytime
Yeah.
something ominous is happening, somebody will say that.
Right.
They probably guess like Adam's Family or something like.
Adam Sandler.
Billy Madison.
No,
Adam's Family.
Adam's Family. Not,
Oh, Adam's Sam.
I think he said Adam
Because
Sandler.
I thought he said it too.
Didn't Christina Ricci's character say that or something like that in that movie?
She might have.
Probably.
I could get my daughter up here. She's an Adams Family savant. But the transformation in this movie,
Yeah.
I love the degradation of him physically and mentally. But I also love the fact that he gets superpowers.
Well, this is a superhero story gone wrong. It's Spider-Man.
Ugh.
If it
Thank God the MCU didn't exist.
if
when
it
this movie
didn't
was
stop,
Yeah,
you know.
right.
that's
It's
true.
like bright burning it.
Yeah.
I remember the scene that always sticks out in my mind is when she starts cutting those hairs off of his back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that seemed like she had to put a lot of pressure on those scissors.
Yeah.
I think
And
that-
the sound. It was like
Yeah.
perfect, like,
Well, it
it's
was
like wire.
great writing as to how he gets the little cuts for those
Yeah.
to show
Yes.
up.
And the insect politics.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
That was just whacked out.
Yeah. And now, if Tarantino wrote that, it would still be great, but it would be 20 minutes long about insect politics.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
this movie
Yeah.
understands brevity and how to just move this thing along. But
I
the
think
only.
most-
Oh, go ahead, Jed.
I was just gonna say the most disturbing thing for me. I think. I mean, I love the transformation. It was really gory, and it was just really. I loved watching it. But the arm wrestling was the one that made me
Yeah.
cringe.
Man.
Mm.
Yeah.
Compound fractures, man. Oh,
Jack almost watched that happen to me. Remember at Chiller when I arm wrestled Norma Bates's brother from Bates Motel?
I don't remember you doing
we were
that.
in the room.
No.
Oh, maybe you weren't in the room. So the guy who plays her brother on the Bates Motel
The
was
blonde
there.
guy
Yeah.
from the Shield.
from The Shield. Yeah.
Yes. So my daughter was, we were both huge into Bates Motel, and she was like, oh, I want to get his autograph. I'm like, okay, cool. So he goes to the table and he says, hey, he goes, if you want to arm wrestle me, if you beat me, you get the autograph for free. If you lose, you pay like $40. And I'm like, oh, all right. I'm like 6 beers in. I should beat you. You seem like a pretty little guy. He demolishes me. Like he almost pulls a fly on my arm. And then he tells me afterward that he was an arm wrestling champion for like 10 years.
Wow.
Like I've never felt anything like that before. I never felt so helpless in my life.
He's like the arm wrestling shark.
Yeah.
Like, he
and
got
I'm
pool
like,
sharks, and he's like arm wrestling shark.
Did
you
he
know?
turn
Yeah.
it? Did he turn his hat backwards, like over the top?
you didn't even need to, man. He just wasted me in front of my daughter. And I said to myself, are you proud that you just humiliated me in front of my daughter? He goes, yep, $40.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, here you go. So yeah, but I felt it. I really he took me down so hard and so fast. I really thought something broke for a moment. I was like, oh my god.
Well, all of that stuff though is what when I initially saw this movie, and I think the friends I was talking about, the special effects and the transformation and the vomiting and the acid, like
Yeah.
we had never seen anything like that. There was a movie with special effects, but when he vomits on the guy and it's acid on his, you're just like,
Yeah.
it was shocking, but also like brilliant. And
Yeah.
so you're watching like, wow, this is gross, but it's so cool.
The
Did it make
first
you
time he did it. The first time he did it when he's just having those donuts, and he's just and he's like, "Oh yeah, oops," and he's kind of like scooping it back, like, like
My
I
bad.
wasn't expecting that, like,
Yeah.
because he was saying he has to eat a different way, so I'm kind of like, well, what does he mean by that? And then just, and it just in the way it came out, man, I was like, okay, I was like, that's another level.
Yes, they've got that little proboscis, like the milk and brandy concoction that he was sipping the original.
Ugh.
Yeah.
It's so disturbing.
I like
And-
their choice of not showing him eat too. They just show the expression of Gina Davis, I mean, they're showing all this other stuff, but then they're leaving that to your imagination, and you could just hear the nastiness of it. I thought that was a choice.
But with all that gross stuff that you saw, for me, one of the things that really sticks out with me is if one of you had me over to show me your teleporting machine, and you teleported a piece of steak and then said, "Now eat the steak," I'd be like, "No friggin' way, man!"
Yeah, no,
He's
No
very
way.
persuasive.
And he doesn't
You're not
even
as
take a bite
persuasive.
himself. He goes, "You do it."
Yeah, you eat it.
And she just did it.
Yeah.
She just did it.
I'm like, oh, this doesn't taste good.
Yeah.
I'll eat the other steak.
Speaking of those pods, that is one thing that I feel like they were done so well that I feel like those would never age. I mean, that's one thing in the movie that really, really holds up still. You know, it
I would
doesn't
think
look
you could
80s.
put
It
those-
just
You could put those pods in Alien. Like it seems to come from
They're
that. It seems
Geigerish.
to come from the
Yeah.
Nostromo.
It's funny
You
that
know?
you say that because I thought about Alien. God, Alien's a tremendous movie, right? But the one thing about Alien when you watch it is kind of the analog technology, the lights
Yeah.
and that's the one thing that ages it poorly. But I mean, we don't care when we watch it, but you notice it. This,
Yeah.
it's a little bit the same, but it doesn't take you out of the movie as much because you're right. Like the technology is the look of the machine is so cool and the thing. So the readout is the only thing, but it is the 80s. So
the readout for sure. But the
Those
plot
computers were
itself-
so smart back then. They're
Yeah.
smarter than they are now.
Yeah.
They can tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah. I
Nowadays,
kind of like that a little bit though, like because the graphics of the computer compared to now are just garbage. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you're looking at it, but
Like
it was still
lemonade stand.
showing you a tremendous amount of information. Like, you know, it's showing you the zoom in on the different part of the fly, and then all of a sudden it became like this is the fly, and it's kind of turning around, and it's pumping you all this information, but you had to respond to it. You know, like kind of the, you know, almost like playing what is it, man, Oregon Trail or whatever.
Oregon
Yeah.
Trail.
You know, like
you have died of dysentery.
Yeah, Carmen San Diego, that kind of thing. And so, but it was that era a little bit, and yet it was pumping out ridiculous amounts of info, and I was like, wow, man, it's like really future stuff going on here.
Yeah, for computers at the time that were running on
Yeah.
BASIC.
Yeah, right.
Almost no
Yeah.
logic whatsoever. But that's okay. It's all good. Just give me a good monster, which it gave me a good monster.
Yep.
It gave you a little love story kind of thing, which I thought was kind of cool. It gave me a woman who screams a lot.
Yeah.
Good
well-
music. Both movies had very good soundtracks, by the way.
You have
Scores
to
were
talk
both
about the
really good.
birth scene though. Cronenberg, number one, is the doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Oh, that's right.
the maggot birth.
Oh.
Yeah.
Kind of looked like
Yes.
my firstborn. She looked terrible when she was born. We make fun of her all the time. I'm like, you look like a fucked up gray sausage with just body parts not in the right places. And they were like, oh, you want us to take pictures? I'm like, no, we're going to wait till her feet drop a little bit and she looks a little better. Maybe tomorrow. Because the hospital offered these pictures like an hour after birth, and my wife like, nah, wait till
Yeah,
tomorrow.
scrap it, yeah.
Maybe she'll look better then.
I think one of the things that work about this movie though is it's a Cronenberg movie, but like it has these phases so that it's not just a creature effect thing. Like you've got body horror moments, you've got creature effect things, but it's almost like 15-minute chunks of like, all right, right now this movie's this, then it's going to change and we're going to have a little bit of body horror stuff, and then at the end you're going to have the big, you know, monster special effects transformation stuff, but it doesn't bang you over the head with like that's the only trick in its bag.
And it was superhero too. Like
Yeah.
I liked how you brought that up. Like that there was a period in there where, you know, he's doing superhuman thing. Well, not superhuman, but for him, it was extraordinary. And then he gets to the place where he really is doing really extraordinary things, you know, like the marathon he had with Gina Davis. And then she comes in and he's crawling on the ceiling and everything. And I like
He's
that effect
Lionel
of that.
Richie.
Great effect.
Yeah. It was a great effect, the way they did it, and how he was looking backward and stuff and like talking to her as he's walking around and his little ticks that he did and stuff.
Yeah.
I felt that it was so perfect, but then that it devolves and that it just gets grodier and grodier, man. And it's like he gets strong, then he's so frail, it's like cancer spreading through his body, but then it gives him superpowers. But then it's by the end, I mean, he's just gnarly, you know, and just but it was also an amazing costume design with that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right, like that ending, the detail of it. Of course, it's still on the grody scale, right? I mean, you're
It's
still
huge
like,
because he's shedding his human form.
Yeah.
yeah, and it's just, it's another level of thing. But it was, yeah, but I like that, how it kind of, super strength way down, super strength degrading further, and I like that. In
Kind of a tearjerker at the end too, man.
When he takes the gun and puts it
Yeah.
on his head because he can't communicate anymore.
She's just bawling.
Yeah, that was rough.
Dude, I was crying a little bit. Not gonna lie.
Oh,
I was. I was the softie. I'm sitting there. I'm like, no. I'm like, dude, don't do it. We'll never
Well,
have rest apart.
I like how both movies had. All right, well, you got to take me out because I can no longer do this.
Yeah.
Well,
Now-
Goldblum is becoming like a villain,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you do fly politics.
and then
Basic politics,
he finds that humanity, right at the end.
Right.
And that's because I remember watching it the first time, and there comes a point where you're like, suddenly you go from like, this is the hero to, oh my god, he's the bad guy now.
Yep.
But then I felt that he came back to hero again because he becomes the bad guy when he goes to the bar, and he's like just a real a-hole.
Mm-hmm.
And then, he's an a-hole to the girl, and then he's back to being himself when he's like all frail. And then he's kind of himself still when it's coming back, but then he's realizing that this thing's taken over, and this is not friendly. This is not good. This is a villain. So now that he understands that he's trapped because he's the good guy again, but he knows that he's becoming this thing that is not kind. And he's caught because he's losing himself more and more and more and more and more. And there has to be a place at some point where that good guy is just gone. And he's afraid that's going to happen. So you've got to end it, man. You've got to say, look, I don't know what's going to happen when I'm gone. I'm not a restraint anymore. And so for that scene where he reaches up, and I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting him to grab it and slowly do this and press it against his head like that. I'm like, when I saw it, I started choking up. I'm all crying. I'm like, man, dude, no, but I knew it had to happen. And then I was kind of expecting it to go on a little longer, or like there to be more to it. But then, she's like, no, I can't do it. And then 5 seconds later, bwham.
Yeah,
His
you're
brain
kind of
is
gross.
just all over. And I said, well, okay, you pulled it. You pulled the trigger.
Think about what Gina Davis is going through. She meets this guy. They fall in love. They rock each other's world. Now she's pregnant with potentially a fly mutant. Mm-hmm. Her boyfriend is turning into a menacing monster and all that. Then his plan is, hey, I'm going to put us both into a transporter and merge us, the three of us, into one.
Yeah, that was a great
creature.
plan.
What
Just
a,
be one family and one body.
Yeah.
So it doesn't surprise me that it's hard to pull the trigger. Oh wait,
Yeah, you're done by I love you, but
How does she explain this? When it's all said and done, you've got a giant man fly dead and a man whose hand and leg have been disintegrated.
Well, you've got the data bank, so you can actually prove all the fly stuff.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
She's going to Guantanamo. We'll never see her again.
She's done.
What a horrible ending. But nihilism is the order of the day.
So Jeremiah, in your journey of horror movies, where's this one in the scale?
Of all 7 you've watched.
Yeah.
Of all 7, man. But see, well, in fairness, man, I've seen a lot of really good ones.
Yeah,
I've had, in this journey that I've been on, man, I've seen a lot of really great horror films. And so I don't really know how I would line it up. I mean, and even with body horror, it's a hard thing. Would you consider The Thing still body horror, that it showed the grossness of the monster?
You could look at it that way, yeah.
And what about
I don't
think
think
it was.
not body in the body horror in the sense that something is wrong with you, because it's a different reason for the body
It's
horror.
a thing.
Yeah, it's not happening to you. It's happening to the copy of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it's nuanced.
Yeah.
Right? It's a nuance.
But they're
It's not
both
really
over the
you,
top
but it
special
is kind
effects.
Yeah. So I don't even know if I've seen too many body horror films, but I can imagine that this would be a really high bar. Not just because the effects, and not just because the tragic ending and the up and down that I really like a lot, that push and the pull that kind of goes with, a viewer and stuff. But Goldblum, I mean, he was remarkable, and sometimes at this point, having seen so many things with him in it, it's easy to kind of almost feel like, well, he's a typecast person. It's like the principal from that when he talks like that, and he used to be on commercials all the time. I forget.
Ferris Bueller, yeah.
Yeah. So like that guy, right? You've seen him so many times at this point that it's kind of easy. You expect that of him. Whereas this, I don't know. It stands out even in all the things I've ever seen of him. Like, and part of it is I think he was funnier too. It wasn't just the science-y guy. Like, he was legitimately really funny. And I mentioned, as kind of a joke, I mentioned that he was on Tim and Eric's $1 billion movie or whatever. And he's just in the beginning, the schlack, whatever, the chairs, the goofy chairs at the beginning. The viewers are supposed to put air in their nose, and they have a butter machine with popcorn that can burn their hands. And he's the guy in the video talking about this chair, right? And it's just hilarious, right? He's not the science-y guy. He's a guy who's just funny, but he's also serious and professional. But this was like taking that and Jurassic Park guy and smashing them together younger. And I felt like that was really a special thing in the timeline of him. And so for me, that stands out in all of the movies he's ever done. That stands out as my favorite now. And so I'll be interested to see body horror movies here out and to see, how I would stack them up with this. But I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed the first one. I enjoyed the second one. Not bored 1 second by it. There was nothing that was like, even the criticisms that I mentioned where I was like, I don't know about this or I don't know about that, wouldn't deter me from encouraging people to watch it and say, this is worth your time.
Right.
It's a good film.
I'm going to give you some homework. So Cronenberg body horror, you're going to have to watch Videodrome, which we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, man.
The Brood.
That's a big Chad one. Chad likes that one.
The Brood and Rabid, because, if you want to watch a movie about a porn star, real life porn star who becomes a vampire and her teeth are in her armpit, that's the movie.
Yeah. All right.
It's funny though because
man, I'm down. I'm down with watching this stuff.
I think there's a special place
Don't
for
forget about Society.
Society. Yes, by all means, watch Society next.
We were supposed to watch Society on PaleoCheeze. That was one of the ones that we were thinking about watching. Is it the butt one? The butt?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I know. Okay. So I'm getting a framework here for what I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
But it was an awesome movie, and I'm really glad you guys picked it because I've wanted to watch it. It's like Jaws, right? Where I wanted to watch it for years. I was scared of it as a kid. I wasn't scared of The Fly. I didn't have anything like that. Right. But it was one of those things where I wanted to watch it for a long time, but there was, maybe it was another movie we wanted to watch or the kids wanted to see something else, and so it just never happened. So when Chad said The Fly, I was just like, oh, yeah, okay. I'm okay with that. And I was surprised to learn there was an older one. I didn't know. And so then I was surprised to learn it was Vincent Price. I'm like, dude, okay, this is really cool. And so it was just a really great experience, man.
It actually might be better if you've never seen either one of them. It might be better to watch the new one first, because especially you have to put yourself in a frame of mind to watch an older movie. Okay, I'm watching this through the 1950s filter. I've got to adjust or whatever. So if you watch the modern one first, it's really good to watch these things back to back so you can appreciate I just did this with Cat People. I watched the original one and then the remake. And I was like, if I hadn't watched the original first, I would have missed so many things in the remake that were specifically callbacks. So it's good to watch them back to back. But this one might be almost better to watch the new one first and then the original.
It worked out. It worked out, man.
I had two questions for you guys. One, has anyone ever seen Return of the Fly? Or not Return of the Fly, Curse of the Fly?
No.
Yes. Love it.
You have, Hunter?
Yeah, I love it.
That is, that might be the OG of body horror. Lots of body horror in that one.
You know what? You're right about that. That could be the seed that was planted.
Yeah.
I'll put it on my list.
It's great. I like it a lot.
I think it's on Prime too. It's like $2.99 or something.
Or on, I think because when I was doing that thing for Cemetery Dance, I rewatched it, and I think I watched it on YouTube. They had a nice copy of it on there too.
Oh,
I don't know.
even better.
It's a really good movie. Well, yeah, tons of body horror, lots of yeah, it's good. But my other question was, what is your guys' favorite Cronenberg other than if it's The Fly, other than The Fly?
Mine is The Fly or The Brood. Those are my two favorites by him.
This is hands down my favorite Cronenberg, without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
The other ones I enjoy, like Rabbit is a lot of fun. The Brood's a lot of fun. What's the one where they're in an apartment building? Is that The Brood? Where the sex?
No, that's
whatever
Crap.
that one is. That's a
it's just one word, right? I think it's just a one word.
yeah.
Not slither, like.
But it's like a virus that makes you
Yeah.
want to have sex.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cold pinnacle.
There could be
horny
worse
goat weed.
sicknesses, I assume.
That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I feel like anytime I watch a Cronenberg movie, I'm enjoying it on a level. But I don't know if cheese factor is the right word. But there's an aesthetic to it that you're watching it, and then there's The Fly. I just feel like it's hands
Yeah,
above the rest.
It's so good.
Videodrome I haven't seen in years though, so
It's a wacko. Have a few drinks and settle in.
My favorite Shivers is the one you're talking about.
Shivers.
Yes.
My favorite's The Brood, easily.
Yeah,
I
Brood's
really
so
really
good.
like that one, other than The Fly. But I also liked Crash. That was really bizarre.
Crash is out of bounds.
Wait,
Not to be
is that the
confused
one
with
with-
Crash that won the Academy Award?
Yeah.
Crash with James Spader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Isn't
Jesus.
Patricia Arquette in that one?
Yeah.
I haven't
Yeah.
seen that since it came out. I need to
I haven't
watch it.
seen it
That was
since
such
then
a
either.
weird movie.
It's it's also called Amputee Love.
Yeah. Very, very
Dude,
strange.
I'm not kidding. I'm not even kidding, Jeremiah.
Amputee love.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff going on there.
Yeah.
But if you can dream up a fetish, somebody's already banging to it. That's the way I look at life.
I don't know.
I've actually done that where me and my friend will sit around and we'll talk, like we'll come up like the most extreme, bizarre thing, and we'll Google them. Like, oh crap, there they are, 400 videos on it.
Yeah, you can't think of anything new. It's all-
Somebody's
Like the
doing it.
people that
Yeah.
dress up like Fruit of the Loom stuff, like grapes and stuff with balloons and pop them one at a time while they bite their
balloon pop.
lip.
Oh yeah, they call them loomers.
Are you serious?
No, I made that up.
I was like, what? I didn't know. I pulled that one out of my rear, man. I had no clue, and I'm like, wow.
There's a whole
pretty
balloon
intuitive.
popping thing. That's a
Yeah,
big
yeah,
deal.
yeah.
I don't get it,
Weird
but
junk.
whatever.
Weird
Whatever
junk.
keeps you from killing people, just do it. Have fun in your house.
That's strange.
Well, I think we picked a good movie. That was fun.
Yeah.
That was, and we
Yeah.
picked the perfect way to end this with the loomers.
Yeah.
I want that to be the lasting thought you have in this episode. I want you to go to bed thinking, oh, loomers. And I want you to go to your party city and get some balloons.
Oh.
Take your pants off.
So we started with the reach round. Now we're ending with the Loomers, the Cleveland Loomers.
Welcome to Monster Men. By the way, I want you guys to remember how kind we were to you for our turn. So if we come back on PaleoCheeze, I want you to extend the same kindness.
I feel like this should be a running thing where we could.
Were we nice?
Oh, I'm
were
down.
we mean?
Were we not kind, you guys?
Were we
No,
mean last
what you
time?
made us watch was unkind. That
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
however,
that was bad.
it was a great conversation.
yes,
It was.
it is fun
Yeah,
to
it was.
crap
It
on
was-
a piece of garbage movie.
Well, and I'd never seen either one. I'd never
Yeah.
seen them, and so I got to see. So, I mean, that's like notoriously bad. Like that's like so bad that everybody, if you bring it up,
It's
Black
offensive.
Christmas, they're like, oh yeah, that. Like the new one, they're like, oh no.
Yeah,
And so if we're gonna go through it, at least we went through it with you guys. You know what I'm saying?
true.
Yeah, it's true.
Held each other's hands.
So where could everybody find you guys?
Right here.
Go ahead, Jeremiah.
You know, where can they find us? I don't know. They can find us all over the place. PaleoCheeze, PaleoCheeze. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter. We have an Instagram. It doesn't, I don't think we posted anything in a long time, but
Pictures
it's
of
there,
cheese.
right? And we've got a Gmail, and we really, I encourage people, email Chad, email Chad at PaleoCheeze. Let him know, and at this point, I think he might be down if you sent him a book. I don't know. He's not
Absolutely
a
send
fan
Chad
of that,
books.
so he's not that desperate yet. But no,
Are you a self-published author, unsure of your work? Send it to Chad, and he'll blurb it for you. No questions
Is it
asked.
your first book ever? Is it the first thing you've ever written? Send it. He's generous.
Send those to Jack. Jack is the one who loves the books.
That's right.
Jack loves them. And so, but you send us an email. We'd love to talk to you. Hit us up on Messenger, whatever it is. And we'd love to connect with you. We've got some cool things in the work, actually, some conversations that we've been having. And doing more of this, because think about it, guys. This is the first time since we started the show that Chad and I have both been on another show.
Oh,
There you
Yeah.
go.
this is
Yes.
honors
Cherry popping for real. You mentioned cherry popping. This is cherry popping, bro.
all over the place.
These are
Cherries
virgin moments.
everywhere.
Yeah, cherries everywhere. So I mean, this is it was a really cool thing. And to be honest, and this isn't to dog anybody else in the universe. We love everybody, but like, if there was a show that we could, if we had to pick, I know I would want to be on you guys' show, because when you came on ours, it was so much fun.
Yeah.
And you guys are just really cool dudes. And plus, Chad loves your show like crazy. He's always watching. He's like, he's part of the
can't get rid of him.
community. He's part of the fam.
That's
And
right,
so
yes.
it was just a really cool thing that when he brought this up and said that this was what we were going to do, I am very, very grateful for many different reasons, and you guys are awesome. And I'm really grateful.
All right. Well, let's make this a regular thing. We could do it every
Yeah.
couple of months.
many
Well,
Yes.
many reach arounds.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's so
Yeah,
many-
Lots of swinging.
yeah. Swinging and looming.
Lumen. Oh, I can't wait to blow some balloons up later. All right, Jack, you take us out. You do your thing, man.
All right. You guys, thanks for joining us. It was great to see you. And everybody else out there, we'll see you next time on Monster Man.
Man.